This is now the Neighborhood Food Network portion of our call. Thank you so much for being with us, Tara. We
Yeah,
are
thanks for
excited to,
having me.
yeah, we're so excited to hear more about what you're up to and gardening tips. Tara is the founder of Farmish, and I'm going to show the screenshot of that real quick and have you explain a little bit about this. Can you tell us what is Farmish? And then we're going to get into
Yeah,
some
so
gardening tips.
Farmish is a free marketplace app for local food and farms. So think Craigslist for farmers and gardeners. So users can create a free listing for things like backyard chicken eggs, produce, garden supplies, plants, trees, and then users can search on a map and message the seller to connect the sale. And all of those transactions happen offline. So it gives a lot more flexibility for the seller to how they want to sell, if they want to barter or trade, or whatever their local laws are that allow them to sell certain things. There's a lot more flexibility legally when you have a direct sale versus something that you are creating a transaction online. So I built the app and we launched it March 15th of this year, and we've had over 100,000 downloads.
Woohoo!
And yeah, people are ready. So we have tens of thousands of users on it every day. And so I'm just every day working to make it better. And we hope to have a bigger and better app build out within the next few months. There it is. Yeah.
That's so great. And so tell us, is your background in app development or is it in
It's,
farming and
it's
gardening?
It's not. So I've been a stay-at-home mom for 8 years, and during that time, I taught myself web development. So I
Go
guess I started.
mom.
So I guess I started doing that before, but I've been doing freelance projects, kind of nights and weekends when my husband could take the kids, and so I've been doing that for 8 years. I'm a hobby gardener, and like a lot of people over the last few years, that hobby of purple tomatoes and pretty gardens kind of transitioned to I need to grow some food and let's have some security in our backyard and let's start making rows instead of small little pretty gardens. So I made that transition, and last year, like a lot of people, I started looking around for more local food sources, and it was tough to connect with people on Facebook and to find the producers that were listing things on Instagram, and there just wasn't a place that I could go and make those connections. So after meeting a few people that I connected with online and parking lots, and I bought potatoes from someone at the library, and I met them. I thought there just has to be a better way to do this. So I submitted the idea to a local business competition and won part of that process, and it just motivated me to move forward, and here we are.
That's great. So when you submitted the idea, did you get funding or support or
Yeah, so I
mentorship?
got $1,000 for that first round, which
Okay.
it was just kind of to flesh out the idea and
Yeah.
present to demo day. So in that 2 months before demo day, I built out a prototype. I built out the UX. I kind of figured out what knowledge I had and what knowledge I needed to move forward. And I ended up hiring a mobile app development agency, and they didn't end up finishing the project. We went back and forth. We just weren't seeing eye to eye. So during that time, I started a TikTok account because I thought, I know where these people are. I'm seeing homesteaders, I'm seeing gardeners, and I just felt like I was getting lost in the algorithm on Instagram. And so I started a TikTok account. And then during that time, I kind of figured it out and figured out what knowledge I had and what I needed to Google, and built the app and launched it to the amazing community on TikTok, all the homesteaders and people who were ready for it, and they took it to their communities. And I'm just really grateful for that.
That's so great. Yeah, the TikTok community for gardening and homesteading is strong. I mean, that's the only reason why I'm on TikTok.
Yeah.
And you can learn a lot in such a short period of time. Like I
Yeah,
mean, with a 7 second, 15 second, one
for
minute
sure.
TikTok, you can learn how to, do, I mean, maybe not all the ins and outs of a canning, but you can
Right.
wrap your head around it enough so that it doesn't seem as scary, right? It's
Yeah.
like an intro into self, reliance,
For
being more
sure. Yeah, instead of
self-reliant.
YouTube has intros and, they kind of make small talk in it, YouTube videos make a whole episode. Where on TikTok, it's like, bam, 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 there you go.
Yes. They show you exactly how to do it, this step, this step, this step, and it's done in 30 seconds. And you're like, oh, I can do that. And then you can go YouTube and you can Google the whole, you can
For sure.
look up a 45-minute video on composting or whatever. But if you want a 30-second one that's a breakdown, it's a great way to get your feet wet there. So
I put the link to her TikTok account down below.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, great. And we didn't download any to show, did we? We forgot about that. Anyway, we have you live, so people can go to TikTok and they can go look at your TikToks and see. But you wanted to come on and share some things with us. I don't have the list right in front of me right now.
No problem.
Some tips.
Yeah.
You want to just dive into some gardening tips for people, or does anybody have any questions first about the app? Does anybody have any questions? You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Oh, can I go?
Yes, Lisa.
Oh, hi, Tara. This is amazing. What a great show today. They're all great, but so let me understand. You go on this and you like something, and then you just meet up with the person that's selling it.
Yep, you can.
So you look for people that are in your area, I would imagine.
Yep. So the map, when you first pull up, will show you the closest listings to you. So if you don't have a listing right near you, the map will kind of take you to a closer listing. So, and then you can zoom out and see where things are. So if you're going on vacation or you're going to be visiting someone, camping, you might want to say, hey, I can buy fresh eggs from here.
Can you walk me through to where you see the map? Because I don't see the map.
If you click the logo,
okay,
that should take you. And then scroll down. And it will be loading in the evening. I know we have a lot of people. Oh, goodness.
Oh, okay. I don't like people tracking me. So
Gotcha.
I don't know how to change. I don't know how to change that right now. And
no problem. But you can search the search bar. You can search a location if you don't want the map to pull up.
I did that and I just got these listings, but you're saying if you allow your location to be accessed, then you can see a map. Okay.
Yep. And the maps are ran by Google API. So they're the ones who house that data. I know there were a lot of questions. Okay. Like in comments, like, I don't know where you are. Like, it's all, like, that part is ran by Google. So I know I had.
Okay. So it's not some other database collecting your data. Okay.
Right.
So this is my area. This is my area. So you can see there's a lot of information of different things.
You're just on the other side of the lake from me, it looks like.
Tara, how are the people that's selling things, are they being screened, or, if they say they're, organic, do we know that they are?
Not at this time. So I would use your discernment, just as if you were meeting up with someone from Facebook Marketplace or from Craigslist. So we hope to build in. I built a small team over the last few months. It was mostly just me in my kids' playroom. So we're working on building out some more of that compliance stuff and just awareness for the users that they can.
So are there places for people to leave reviews too? Because those are always really helpful.
Yeah, those are something that we'll be adding in also. And then by the end of the summer, like I said, work on a new rebuild. So we're going to have a lot more, like, you can favorite and have a profile that you can update small snippets of content. So like if you have a U-Pick farm or you want to see a U-Pick farm, their updated hours, almost like a status that they can update. And then you can subscribe if you want notifications for that.
And I saw that you can list for free 7 days, right? So like, let's just say I have a bumper crop of lettuce, which is what happened last year. And I didn't understand succession planting. So, like 50 heads of lettuce all ready at the same time. And my son, sat by the roadside and tried to sell it. He only sold like 2 heads of lettuce, so that kind of, we ended up giving so much of it away, but that kind of thing, I could go on and list for free just for the duration of that week and sell a bunch of lettuce if I want.
So that was the original intention, especially to try to keep spam down and keep people from forgetting about listings or whatever. But actually we just decided yesterday, we're going to get rid of the expiration dates over the summer. Okay. And we do have like a premium upgrade version too. We're also going to make that free throughout the summer. So because we want to grow. We want it to be valuable for people. And then later on, we do have some ad partners who are interested. And so we're thinking about, companies that really align with the mission, and not just like Google ads, but people like brands, the brands you see on TikTok, or, seed houses and things like that. So I'm hoping to transition to that, and then everything will be free, because I don't want to charge people, but I know the app needs to make money, but especially these smaller transactions, it doesn't make business sense for someone to pay for a listing for lettuce, so.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you can figure that out, we are just so supportive of being able to get the word out to people, to share it. And we just love that you're a mom that figured this out. We just absolutely love that story and your chutzpah behind it, and using social media, because that's really, it's just been such a huge supporter for so many endeavors. I mean, not just like we started off with activism and, raising awareness about GMOs and glyphosate in the food supply. And it was social media that really gave us that platform to reach millions of people. But we also, our focus has been local, right? Empowering people locally to connect, and we joined into 4th of July parades, but just having local talks and gatherings. So we now have like 3,000 volunteers across the country.
That's amazing.
That want to connect people locally. And so, stories like yours are what's happening. People are doing things all across the country to support the food supply and community and health and safety. And we just, love this story. So however we can support it, let us know. You have launches or new things, we want people to connect around healthy food.
Awesome. Healthy food. I did win like another stage of the business competition, and they gave me this like big check. Like a month or so ago. It was $5,000, which was great, which has helped us, get where we are right now. But I just want to say, you mentioned being a mom and stuff. So it kind of entered me into this like startup businessy world. Like I've gone to they invite me to like mixers and things like that. And it's always like businessy tech people. And they're like, so where have you worked? And I'm like, home. I'm gonna stay home. They're like, and you have an app? I was like, yes, I do.
Yes. Yeah. So it didn't cost you like $30,000 to start this? I'm just asking. I don't know if you mind saying, but did it cost tons of money to start it?
No. So, I mean, it cost probably 5 to 7, the development stuff.
Okay.
So, because I did a lot of it. So I did a lot of it on a platform. But then since we had a weekend where we had 50,000 downloads, and which was amazing, but the more users are, the more storage there needs to have, the more we spend on like the Google services and email, all these other expenses have come up. And so that week I was actually in that competition. So that's, that was really helpful. And then just kind of plug me into some other entrepreneurial resources that are around here, like grants and stuff. So we have some options looking forward that I'm really excited about, to be able to serve people and keep the listings free. So that's really important to me, that there will always be a free aspect to the app.
Yeah, that's so great. Well, oh wait, we do have a page. We'll be listing you on our Neighborhood Food Network resource page.
Awesome, thank you.
So yeah, so we'll be doing that. It's, let's see, under
links. If you go under resources and links, you'll see.
Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. Let me show. It's already there. Hang on, let me show you where it is. People can find it. It's not going to be called links in the future, though. It's going to be just under resources. It'll be under resources. So yeah, so there's Farmish. Here's where you can find your planting zones.
Oh yeah, I love
gardener guides. All of that. We're going to be listing Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, because they have just agreed to give out free seed starter kits to anybody from the Neighborhood Food Network that agrees to have a meeting, to initiate, to be a facilitator for the Neighborhood Food Network in our in your area. So we have that page under sign up, right? Let's see. Is it not live yet? Let me see. Okay, yes. So the Baker Creek seed packet it'll be something like this, but it's going to be 3 seed packets per person for your group. So probably about 30 seed packets. And here's how you get started, for the Neighborhood Food Network to download the invitation, meet your neighbors, have the first meeting, and then come to our calls, and then keep meeting with your neighbors in your area. So we have this new seed packet set that was one of our announcements for today. And then also Anne is going to make customized calling cards for anybody who starts up to be a facilitator for the neighborhood food.
And I have handed out a lot of these cards. I've printed out a lot. I keep in my purse. I've handed them out to people in Goodwill that I talk with. I was talking to somebody today about mason jars, and of course I led that into growing food. And
yeah, so we want to know from you, what are the tips that you want to give people who are just getting started growing food? What are the topics you wanted to talk about in the next?
Yeah, so my tips today, like I said, are very different than they were a couple years ago. And I was thinking about like hobby, and aesthetics maybe. And for today, when choosing a variety of what to grow, of course, you have to consider your space and what you're going to do with it. But something a little unconventional is that I try to grow a lot of the same thing. So I do have some garden plans on TikTok where like a salad garden or like a pizza garden where you can grow different things to make pizza sauce. But I try to think in terms of meal starters. So plants to grow that have more than a 1 seed to 1 fruit ratio. So if you think of broccoli, you plant 1 seed and you get 1 head of broccoli. Where if you plant 1 bean seed, which requires no seed starting, you don't have to buy it from a greenhouse, you can just stick the seed in the ground, you can have beans for months. And you can have a couple pounds per plant. You can squeeze 9 plants per square foot. And some people shy away from that because I think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be eating beans forever. But if you have ways to preserve them, even with beans, something as simple as freezing them and chopping them up, blanching them real quick, sticking them in the freezer, you can mix them in meals all throughout the year. And so it doesn't feel like you're eating beans for you're eating beans for every meal. The same with zucchini, I think is probably the most valuable thing to me in the summer. And not just from what I grow, but knowing because it is so prolific that it's so cheap to buy bulk elsewhere in roadside stands or in farmers markets. And it's something, especially when you're thinking about cutting that grocery bill, that you can shred and bulk up any meal that you're serving. I have put zucchini in ground beef. I've put zucchini in soup and muffins and pancakes and cookies, just about everything. So I dehydrate it, I freeze it, shred it, everything. And so I try to think in terms of what can bulk up my meal and not necessarily what is just going to taste.
So how many zucchini plants do you plant for your family, and how many people?
I plant 3, and last year they gave us over 50 pounds of zucchini. So
see, folks, you don't need much space to grow and create a lot of food. I know I just saw a post from Facebook from one guy who said, I have learned the hard way that you only need 1 zucchini plant per family. Yeah. Otherwise you are hiding it in your car, your neighbor's cars and putting it on their doorsteps. Sure. And you're like giving it away. But if you learn how to shred it and freeze it, right? Or shred it and make, like you're saying, cakes and you can make zucchini pancakes.
Yep, for sure.
All kinds of things. Yeah.
I actually made zucchini bread from frozen shredded zucchini I'd saved from my crop last year for my first neighborhood food network meeting.
Oh, awesome.
Great. Yeah. And zoodles. Yeah. Zucchini noodles.
You can dehydrate them as zoodles too. I have like a crusty old dehydrator I got at Goodwill a couple years ago with the intent of upgrading, but it works. It's solid. So
I never thought of that.
Yep, you can dehydrate the zoodles. And then I don't even like rehydrate them in water. I just like toss them in with the hot saucy food and it works out really well. And I've tried dehydrating them in bigger chunks and I just don't like them. So shredded everything. You can, dehydrate them shredded. You can freeze them that way. I freeze them in like ice cube trays or muffin tins or freeze them flat. I have a bag in our deep freezer just for zucchini.
Oh, a tip for the green beans that I thought was fabulous was that I would blanch them, shock them in cold water, and then I would lay them on a cookie sheet and freeze them. And after they were frozen, I would put them in a Ziploc, and then I could just take out however many I need. Whereas the year before, I I did them all in vacuum seal bags, and
Yeah.
it was
That's really smart. Yeah, I see when people, a lot of conversations on TikTok and stuff, when people are talking about growing, they're like, oh, I need this and I need this and I need peppers and tomatoes and I need all these things. And I think if you look and see what's seasonal near you and what's inexpensive and what you'll actually, what you'll actually eat and what you can mix in with foods that you already eat. Like my kids love peas, like that they will eat that vegetable more than anything, any other vegetable. And so I know that it's pretty inexpensive to buy shelled peas frozen just from the store, but snap peas are more expensive throughout the year.
ridiculous.
It's hard to get that. It's hard to get them fresh
$3.99 for a little bag this big.
from Venezuela or something, So that's something I grow a ton of, and it's really easy. You can get $5 in seeds. You can get a couple packs, and I succession plant them all spring, summer,
And you
fall.
can save your seeds for the next year.
Yep.
Yeah, my kids eat them off the vine before I let them go.
But you
Yeah,
can, and I did that this year for the first time. I have a whole row of sugar snap peas growing from peas that I saved the year before, and I didn't think they were going to grow because they get all shriveled looking, and I didn't think I saved them right. I just let them dry. I was like, oh, this is not going to work, but it worked.
Yeah.
That and the melons that I planted. So that, to me, that's food freedom, when you don't even have to pay for the seeds. You save them and they come back again.
For
So
sure.
but I like
have to
this tip
find-
of thinking about what is it that you can use to bulk up your food supply and I mean your meals, and what your kids really like to eat. What else?
You do
Yeah.
pep-
Oh,
like
go ahead.
the green peppers?
Yeah, last year was the first year I grew a lot of peppers. I think rabbits were eating them, and somebody was. And last year I covered them and grew so many, and I still have a bag that I just those are the easiest thing to freeze. You don't have to blanch them or anything. You chop and toss them in a bag. I also have an amazing roadside stand just a few miles near me that sell like the most beautiful peppers. They sell them like by the peck or something. I don't know. So something for like $4, this huge thing of peppers. So well, I do grow them. I buy a lot from them so I can freeze them, pickle them.
And those are really great when you slice them thin and then use them in fajitas later in the year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, how many tomato plants do you have?
24 right now. So, and they're all canning paste varieties. So if you figure those can go up to 10 pounds per plant or more. And the tomatoes are mainly for pizza sauce. So last year, because we do pizza every Friday, and sometimes the crust is store-bought, sometimes it's a mix, a lot of times it's homemade, but we always have homemade pizza sauce. And so that was my goal last year, to have enough pizza sauce for the year. And this year got us through the winter, but
how many quarts of pizza sauce did you have?
I canned them in pints. So I had like 40 something.
Wow, that's great. That's my goal. That's what I want to have happen this fall too. It'll be my first time though. Last year
I
we just
have
bought the tomatoes and we
60.
froze one bag, but we didn't actually process and make sauce. So that's what
Yep.
we want to do. Go ahead,
Yep.
Anne.
I just said, I think I have 60 plants.
Wow.
Well, I'm
That's amazing.
trellising them up, and I'm planting them closer together. So I'm trying that this year, but I'm also doing paste tomatoes. I'm also doing heirlooms, and I'm also doing a lot of cherry tomatoes, because one of my favorite pasta sauces is with roasted cherry tomatoes.
Awesome.
And I just used my last can.
I do have cherry tomatoes around our deck. So I have more than 24 now that I think about it, but that's our backyard landscaping. Better Homes and Gardens is not going to come knocking anytime soon, because instead of
And
fancy
that's okay.
plants,
They don't need to. It doesn't need to look pretty to grow a delicious tomato. And for
Right.
those of you who are new to this, to this call, or new to gardening, I would say that's the first thing you might want to try growing, because when you taste a homegrown tomato, it will blow your mind how different it tastes from the store-bought stuff. It's probably the fruit, maybe besides peaches, that are the most different, I think, from when you taste that food wouldn't you agree? Right around.
Oh yeah, I call them trash tomatoes when we buy them like at the store in the off season for whatever reason, or I get them at a restaurant. they're just trash compared
Yeah.
to the
It's like
burst of
they might be
sunshine.
watery and,
Mhm.
you know, that's it. There's no like real flavor to them at all. So when you.
Well,
Yeah.
that was a tip. That was a tip to not pick them right after a heavy rain.
Oh,
Right. Yes.
Because they will have more sugar and they'll have more concentrated flavor than if they've sucked up all that water, which I
Yeah.
thought made sense.
yeah, that makes sense. I didn't consider that either. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we live in a subdivision, so we do grow quite a bit of food. I mean, we grew hundreds of pounds last year, not including squash. Probably I weighed stuff as I processed it, and I think we're like over 400 pounds or more of food, not including the heavy squash. That so quite a bit. And
how big is your backyard that you grew that?
we live on
you
less than a
grew?
third of an acre.
Okay.
And we have backyard chickens, and we have, I was going to calculate today and I forgot. So we have 4 3x6 beds and 2 3x12 raised beds. And then we have a mulberry tree that gives us about 20 pounds of fruit every year that every family member who comes over offers to trim. And I'm like, no, don't touch it. That's where we get our fruit.
Yeah. That's
Well, that's
great.
fantastic that you have that land and you grow that much food.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question about like kale. Do you,
Yeah.
because that also, I grow kale and that's very hardy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it can winter over. So I'm curious, do you also freeze your kale or chop it up, or what do you do with those?
Yeah, so I've chopped it and freeze it in muffin tins, and then either big ones or small. I have like they might be like gummy tins, they're thinner and smaller. So sometimes I'll put them in smoothies, or I make a green soup in the winter. My kids call it monster soup. That's just like a potato soup with like whatever greens we have blended up. So but yeah, kale is probably one of my favorite greens. I try to grow that over lettuce because, as you probably figured out, you can't really store lettuce. You can't do much with it like after it's ready to go. So I try to grow like spinach and kale most often.
That's great.
I grow a lot of different kinds of kale. Pretty much, if you look at the Baker Creek catalog, I'm growing every one they have.
Awesome.
At the end of the year, right before the frost, I picked all of it and put it in Ziploc bags, which I reuse. And I
Mhm.
make all the different kinds, and then I put it every morning. I put a bag in my smoothie.
Oh, smart. Yeah.
So you dehydrate it, Anne, and grind it up into a powder? Is that what you said?
No, I just chop it up so it's manageable and shove it into a Ziploc bag and force all the air out. And I had all these little packets in my
Oh,
freezer.
you freeze it. Okay.
I didn't blanch it or anything.
Okay.
So
Very
do you
cool.
freeze it when it's tender kale, or it doesn't matter? Because there's a difference when they're young and, more tender as to when they age. Does that matter when you freeze?
I eat it fresh when it's tender, and then when it's hardier, that's when I freeze, because I always either cook it or it's blended up really well in a smoothie. So the kale I've forgotten about or that popped up as a volunteer in another garden bed and kind of gets out of control, that's my favorite. That's the best to freeze, I think.
Yeah, I make it into kale chips. I just put it in the oven at 200 degrees with a little bit of olive oil and like lemon pepper on it, or cayenne, or use some type of, but I can never save them. They're gone. It's like, it's gone that day. Everybody eats it up. So it's a good way to get kale in your kids if there's an issue with that at all. But most people who grow food, they don't have as much of an issue with their kids eating vegetables, because the kids go out there and they're a part of it, and they're eating the food that they're helping to grow. So so Frankie's saying that raw kale can be problematic for people with thyroid issues. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, and could be some heavy metals in kale that might be problematic too. So for some people, they say if you're going to have it, cook it, or just don't have like tons of kale every day, right? Have space it out. So
but how about Swiss chard? There's a difference between kale and Swiss chard as far as the heavy metals. Is that right?
I think so. I would have to research that a little bit more, but I think kale is the one that has been, and this might be conventionally grown kale, you know what I mean, with using the conventional pesticides. So I'd have to look more into that. Thank you, Susie.
Hi,
Thank
Susie.
you for coming. All right, well, it is 9 o'clock and we asked you, Tara, to be here from 8:30 to 9, so we don't want to keep you any longer. We really appreciate those are some good tips. Does everybody find that useful? I didn't
Yes.
know you could plant 9 bean plants per square foot. Holy mackerel, I need to
Yep.
plant more beans. Thank you.
Oh, another tip I wanted to mention that I saw from Hugh Richards on one of his YouTube channel was walk around your garden. If there's blank spots, pop in a bush bean.
Beans. Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I have a tunnel that I'm growing pole beans on. I have purple bush beans, and after watching that video, I was walking around going, oop, here, up here, and
Yep.
yeah, you'll be eating a lot of beans, but you grew it.
And they mix into a lot of things. So it's not like, you
I
know,
make a lot of soups in the winter
Yep.
time.
for sure.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, cream bean
Really,
casserole.
really,
Thank
really
you so
great.
much, Tara.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks for
being
having
on
me.
with us. We really appreciate it. We wish you so much success with Farmish,
Thank you.
and we will definitely share it far and wide. And
How do we contact you? Do we contact you through the Farmish website?
You can email me at tara@getfarmish.com. So I can put that in this chat if you'd like.
And so what I would like to suggest to people about this is to post the Get Farmish app on Nextdoor, because then you're going to get people next door to you that will, start using the app and sharing food or buying food.
I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that is the way to go, because that's how it's going to get out there the fastest. I think, I mean, Facebook is good, but it's got a lot of people from across the country. Facebook is not as local as it really
exactly.
could be. And you can't sell any animals on Facebook. You can't post like, oh, I have chicks, you can't do that. So I really appreciate you filling the gap for this. Would you consider putting a place on there where, maybe you already had it for animals, but like I have been looking for months to find a buck for my female goats so that I could breed them to start then being able to milk them.
We don't have a specific animal. People have listed goats. So that's something within a few weeks, we're going to take like a full audit of what people have listed. We've been pretty relaxed. It's really just me like checking, so I've deleted a few things that were like art, not really relevant, but, I have seen goat listings. And so we're going to take an audit and see what other categories we can create that fit in with what.
And I have too many rabbits. I need to sell rabbits.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of rabbits on there.
Okay, good. Yeah. So, just things like that. I appreciate that you're doing that, because the county extension is not doing that.
Mhm.
There's certain things they just don't do. So I appreciate you filling the gap.
Well,
All right, before I let you go, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
All right, take care.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, so does anybody else have any other questions? We don't have to go to 9:30, but we always, allow the time if people have questions, you have things you want to discuss. Let's see.
I just found a buck goat in Asheville for you.
Oh,
You did? How did you do that?
Because I'm magic.
Oh my gosh, you are. All right.
It's well, I'm sending you an email.
Okay. It also depends on the type of goat, but yeah, thank you. I will take a look at it. So while people are thinking of any questions you might have, we want to direct your attention towards this. I would like to direct your attention towards this garden planner thing. This is more of a thing to be aware of for like January, February, March, we're kind of more beyond this point now, but just wanted to show you there are lots of apps out there where you can plan out your garden so that you have things sorted out in your head. If you're this type of person, I am more of like a fly by the seat of my pantser people. I just look up what grows well next to this. Like for instance,
this is great I have this app too, as you know, and I have only really used it to look up companion plants.
Yeah, so here you have like tomatoes. This would probably be basil right next to them that grow well. And I think that's cucumbers over here, right? So you do want to look up before you start planting your garden, what grows well next to that plant. And that's very easy to look up. We have the links on our website. But this is what Anne turned me on to, was the Grow Veg website and the garden planning. And then we sent this out in the email for Neighborhood Food Network in case you didn't see it or you haven't signed up to be on the Neighborhood Food Network newsletter yet, this is a good article by P. Allen Smith about 17 plants to control pests. So if you're planting things now and your plants are starting to come up, you might be noticing that the bugs are coming out. So it's a good time to, get some extra basil starts, plant those next to your tomatoes, get some borage. Let's see, that repels tomato hornworms and cabbage worms.
If anybody wants any borage, please come to my house. I have it coming up everywhere.
Okay, good.
And it gets big.
Chives repel Japanese beetles, which can be really ferocious. So you want to try to plant some of those around your garden. Dill, I just planted a whole bunch of dill. Like, I planted it in one spot and then I pick it up and I transfer it. So you want to plant those at a distance from tomatoes because they attract the rootworm.
What are 4 o'clocks?
Yeah.
Never heard of that before.
It's a favorite food for Japanese beetles. I don't know. It's poisonous foliage. Rarely do they get to finish their meal. It's important that 4 o'clocks are also poisonous for people and animals. So avoid planting if you have small children or pets. Okay, I don't know. I have to look up 4 o'clocks. Garlic, lavender, marigolds are one of my favorite because they help with keeping away rabbits and deer. And nasturtiums attract the squash bugs and the cucumber beetle. So there's some plants that you want to plant that will just repel the bugs, and there's some that you plant that attract the bugs, right? So the nasturtiums are one where it attracts certain, let's see. Wait, am I right here? Let's see. It's a way to fight off woolly aphids, white frogs, squash, and cucumbers. Okay, yeah, so it's a trap for aphids, right? They act as a trap for aphids. So there's some plants that trap the, and there's some that repel them away. So like sunflowers draw aphids away from other plants. Ants move their colonies onto sunflowers, and they're tough, so they suffer no damage. So we just wanted to share that article with you. We thought that was a good one. And then this is exciting. Oh my goodness. So I'm so excited about this because I couldn't find anything like this anywhere. So what we had was one of our team members, and Anne helped put this up, but one of our team members helped research, and we found, Anne researched, and then one of our team members helped put this all together, where you can find, first you find your garden zone. You click on this and you find your zip code. You put your zip code in and you find your garden zone. We're only focused on zones 3 through 9 for now, because that's what's in the US, right? And then you click on your zone, and you can add it to your Google Calendar. And I think mine already does that. Yeah. So I guess you don't need to see my Google, but it will automatically add it to your Google Calendar. You'll have to, I've already done it. So what'll pop up the thing for you will say, click and add to your calendar. So Google Calendar or Outlook. And then what it looks like is every month on the first of the month, you get a notification of what needs to be done that month for your zone. Isn't that great?
That's excellent.
So you won't forget, like, oh, now's the time to start the basil starts, right? Or the tomato starts or the pepper starts. Like, this is the month that I do that. Now, eventually we'd like to have enough funding to be able to put more research in it to have something every week, but that's really preferential. Some people might want to start their tomatoes before they start, the peppers before they start tomatoes. They want to do that at the beginning of the month versus the end of the month. So that's really kind of up to you. But this is great for what you need to do that month. So you'll never have an excuse again to say, I didn't know that's when I was supposed to start, because you'll be able to go back to that and have it in your calendar. So I'm really happy about that. So any other questions? Anybody want to share anything about what's going on with you with growing food? Not right now.
My sugar snap peas are starting to come in, so I'm getting pretty excited. Lots of blossoms. And my apple trees. I have 4 apple trees I planted 3 years ago. And this year I think I'm going to get some apples. So I'm pretty happy about that.
That's exciting. Yeah, I saw the small apples on the tree. Very exciting.
I know, I go and talk to them.
Yes, and Frankie, yes, the calendar has events in there every month of the year. let me just bring up my calendar and see if I can just show part of that. Or
I was
like, for
I was
instance,
gonna pull up my calendar. My calendar might be a little,
less crazy than mine.
yeah.
Let me see. Let me just see if I can. I'll bring up maybe July 1st.
And I have a question about your fruit trees. Do you find it's a little more of a challenge growing fruit trees organically?
Well, I do know that I can put neem, this will be my first year that I'm getting fruit, so I did buy 70 feet of bird netting. I plan on putting that over, and then I also plan on using organic neem oil to help with the pests. But other than that, I have talked to an organic apple farmer, you know, and he says it's impossible not to use something on your trees. So I'm gonna try that. I'm keeping an eye on them. But last year I had one apple and the only problem I had was that something came and ate it.
So this is what it looks like here. Right now it's purple. We're going to change it to green, but everything that can be started in that month is in the little event. You see that in the first: beans, corns, cucumbers, eggplants, peppers, squash, pumpkins, arugula, beets, broccoli, dill, cilantro, kale, and spinach can all be planted in July. And you know, a lot of times I don't think about that. Like, oh, I planted some in May or June. I don't think about planting again, but you can succession plant, you know, you can keep planting. So it shows up like that.
That's cool.
And a lot of these plants need to be planted like your brassicas, like broccoli and cabbage, need to be planted very early in the spring, and then you start them again very like in the end of July.
Yep.
For a fall crop.
Yes. Yeah. Because if you don't, then you miss out on a whole growing season of those cool weather crops. And for those of you that haven't started your gardens yet, and you're thinking, okay, I might put this off for a little bit. If you wait until July or August, it's not too late, because the fall crop is actually easier to grow than the spring crops, because the spring and summer crops get so many bugs. But the fall crops, it's too cold for a lot of bugs. So you don't get all those pests, and you get a bunch of kale and spinach and broccoli and, like a lot of these different plants that are very hardy. And it's anyway,
and it won't bolt like my spinach. I have spinach that's only this big and it's already bolting.
Yeah, if it gets too,
because we had some really hot days, and so that tells the plant, oh my God, I have to send out seed.
Can you cut it back and still get the spinach?
I don't know, I've never tried that.
Yeah, you can take off the top of the spinach, just like you do with basil, to keep it growing, like that. But I don't know. I know that really
gets bitter. I think it might get bitter when it starts sending up seed, because it doesn't want anybody eating it. Right. But I did my bed that I have spinach in is not doing so great right now, so I ended up ordering cowpeas from Baker Creek, and I planted all cowpeas within there, and they're all coming up.
Darn it, I still haven't done that yet. See, this is my biggest problem, is not knowing how to do it. It's not doing it when you're supposed to do it. That's why that calendar thing was at the top of my list. And Frankie, you'll have to download your calendar to see what it says for you, because for some people it's not, you know what I mean? Starting January to plant onion starts and tomato starts in March. I don't know if it's the same thing for them in their time zone.
So mine's telling me to plant chard kale, summer lettuce, carrots, beets, and radishes on June 1st.
Okay. Yeah.
Zone
so
5.
Every time zone is going to be different. Every garden zone is going to be different. Now, we didn't break it down to 7A and 7B, or 6A and 6B. It's just garden zone 6, garden zone 7, like that. But it will have what you're supposed to do when in that. And the source was from one of the gardening websites.
And you're going to have, and each garden itself is going to have its own little microclimates, which you'll start to learn what likes to grow where in your actual garden. So
have you found your zones have changed a little because of the climate warming?
Well, yeah. Joe said in my local area that we used to be garden zone 6B or something, and now we're 7. So because of the warming, or my area anyway, North Carolina, it's changed. Yeah.
And Mark Dudla said on one of our calls like a month ago that up where he's in Wisconsin like I am, he said everything's kind of 2 weeks behind.
Mhm.
So,
It really depends on your area. And in my area, we have microclimates because of the mountains. So it could snow 8 inches in March across town for me, and I could only get a dusting. Like, we have microclimates in our area. So the one thing about gardening that is really awesome is that you get in tune with nature. You actually start looking at the weather every day. You actually start anticipating when's it going to rain and when you might need to go out and water, and looking at the sky and being in tune with the moon. And it's just a beautiful way to get connected and grounded with nature, is to actually be dependent on what nature is doing, which is, when you're growing food, you need rain. So
I know somebody said to me, "Oh my God," today. I go, "I know, isn't it awesome?" You know?
yeah, it's awesome. Gardening is awesome.
In Massachusetts, we also are behind almost 2 weeks because of the weather.
Mhm.
But then our weather has been so crazy. Some days we'll have really hot weather, and then in 2 days it'll be in the 50s and 60s.
Exactly what we're having.
So confusing for the plants.
Yes. Yeah. Very. But if you didn't see last week's call with Megan Kane, I would go back and look at it. It's on YouTube, right, Ann? We're putting
Yes.
Neighborhood Food Network on YouTube because they're not going to censor gardening things. So we are putting that YouTube, hoping to get a broader reach there. And she talked about how to do, cold, what do you call them? Cold what?
Cold frames.
Cold frames and the low tunnels and the high tunnels. That will really help with when the weather starts to get a little bit colder in the fall. If you want to plan that out ahead of time to start being able to put those in the late summer or early fall, because when you do have wacky weather, you can just go out and pull the cover over it and protect your crops. It really does make a difference. So yeah, well, let's see, anything else? I wish I took some pictures, but my three sisters garden is starting to come up. I've got my corn is about probably a foot tall now, so it's time to plant the beans, so that the beans will start growing up the corn, and the squash is growing, and that the squash will keep the raccoon away from getting to the corn. So they all work, and the beans put nitrogen in the ground that the corn loves, right? So
I didn't know that raccoons don't like squash.
no, they like corn.
I know, but they don't like squash.
Oh no, because it's prickly. Squash has got all those little hairy prickly things on it, and raccoon don't want to walk on that. So the squash is a barrier for raccoon. It keeps them away. So yeah, if you want to plant them on the edges of your garden, that's a great way to keep those little critters out. I imagine rabbits too. Yeah, if you have garden photos, you want to share something, I put it so that other people can share photos. Yes, I wish I took pictures of my garden just now. I will for next week. I will take pictures and show what's going on. But one thing I noticed is that I did many mounds, like 47 mounds or something for my three sisters garden. And I would say, like, I don't know, maybe 8 of them, the corn didn't grow or the squash didn't grow, or, something didn't grow. Maybe 1 corn grew instead of 3 or 4. So definitely when you're planting seeds, this is what one guy always said, plant 2 to 3 times more than what you want, right? And definitely put 2 seeds into a hole instead of just 1, because if one doesn't germinate, right, then the other one will. So I learned my lesson there. I should have used more seeds when I planted the corn, but it's not too late. I can still plant some. It's just, I gotta get it done. Get out there and get it done.
Have great strawberries growing here.
You do?
Yes, and it's exciting because it was the first time I share a garden with my neighbor. He's 85 years old, and he is so excited about teaching me how to be a farmette. And so this is, and we've done strawberries for years, but because the idea about strawberries, you have to, let it go for a year, and then you have to weed and feed. And this is the first year last year that we did that, and we kept up with it. So we have strawberries. So it really paid off to persevere and be persistent with maintenance, weeding and feeding and watering. And so we have strawberries. So
that is wonderful. And is the fish emulsion, right? Fish emulsion is the trick with strawberries?
He uses I don't know what if he, we get some organic food for it and just, mostly it's the weeding. And also, which is always hard for me, is to cut off those runners. Otherwise,
No, mine are growing all outside my bed. Are you putting bird netting over? Because last year I probably only got 3 strawberries.
Well, last year we had rabbits in Massachusetts. We had a population of rabbits. They were all over the beaches. They were just all over Cambridge, wherever you were. There were rabbits. So no, the rabbits are okay. Rabbits love the blueberries, but I don't eat strawberries. I feel strawberry throughout the year. It's like peaches or anything, or tomatoes. I won't eat tomatoes unless I grow them. For me, like I have strawberries like for 3 weeks, 3 times a day. You just get tired of them afterwards. You're so happy to just move on to the next fruit.
Oh, I freeze them and put them in my smoothies.
Oh, you freeze them.
Yeah, freeze them and use them. We use them on top of pancakes. You just heat them up with a little bit of, a little scoop of sugar in with them sometimes for a syrup, and you put them on top of your pancakes in the middle of winter. I love that.
So you grow enough strawberries where you can freeze them?
Oh, no, not yet. I'm just saying the use for strawberries. So if you get sick of them when they're fresh, freeze them and you can use them, later on. Yeah, no, we just started growing strawberries. They're not going to be good for, until another year or two.
I used to go to You Pick Farm, an organic You Pick Farm, and pick.
Yes, that's what I did.
Bushels of it, and they closed this year. They said they're not growing strawberries anymore.
Oh no. Yeah, we did that in Southern California. We would get 60 pounds of strawberries a year and freeze them, make sauces for pancakes later. Oh, so great.
They were organic strawberries. That's great.
Yes. Yep, they were organic and we could pick them ourselves. It was just delicious, so sweet, so fresh, but they didn't last very long because my kids knew how delicious they were and they would go down in the freezer and they'd just sit there with a bowl of frozen strawberries and eat them, just like that with handfuls of blueberries, the same thing. Just eat frozen blueberries by the mouthful. I mean, they're getting their antioxidants, so that's good. It's not ice cream, you know what I mean? It's frozen fruit, so yeah. All right.
Now we're gonna have to start like a recipe section too.
Oh yeah, recipe section will be great. Anybody wants to contribute to, the website building of it, please do let us know. Okay, so I have to ask, is there anybody out there who has had a neighborhood food network meeting or is considering it? Or do you have any like reservations that you want to talk about? Like, yeah, but what if? Any concerns? Not right now.
I've been in school and really busy, but I'm going to look into it this week. I'm going to go on the site and look into it.
Okay, good. Awesome. Just see it as an excuse to get to know your neighbors. Okay. It does not have to be a big deal. You do not have to, it's not a second job. It really is just like a way to invite your neighbors to start the conversation and create some camaraderie. I mean, one of the nice things that's happened with us recently is we met our neighbors because we did this, and now the neighbors hired my son a couple times to do some, odd jobs for them. They feel good that he's a local guy that they can trust, and he feels good having work from a neighbor, and things like that happen are really, very beneficial for the community. You know what I mean? For people to be connecting. So you never know what can happen. Plus they have alpacas that look like giant stuffed animals. They're just adorable. It's so cute.
Yeah, so I took I don't know if I said this last week, where I took a wagon down the street on a nice day and it was filled with tomato plants, and anytime I saw somebody outside, I was giving them a tomato plant.
Mm-hmm.
And talking
We're going to call you Anne of the tomatoes.
Yeah. And that's the gateway plant, and now you're creating gardeners all over the place, because once they taste those fresh tomatoes, they're never going back.
I love it. Tomatoes, the gateway plant.
Yep, it is. That's it. Especially oh man, when they have it on a sandwich, or the cherry tomatoes pop in their mouth. Oh my gosh, it's so great. All right, well, I think we're gonna close up. Anybody have anything else you want to say before we go?
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for being
here. Yeah.
And supporting gardeners. I know it may not be hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people right now, but every one person that starts to grow food, I am sure that you all will be sharing the food that you grow, because you will inevitably have too much. And then therefore it will be paying forward, you know, with growing food. So we really appreciate that. Yeah.
My neighbor, Farmer John, he has a huge garden. So he just gives everything away, you know, extras. And so whenever anyone stops by to visits him, they always walk away either with some vegetables or some plants. It's just the way he is.
That's
So
wonderful.
5 years old, he's been doing it for like 60 years, and it's his joy and keeps him alive.
That is wonderful. What a
There's
great
nothing
story.
better than being in the garden, as far as I'm concerned. Do you want to talk about lowering your blood pressure? Go
Yeah.
hang out.
And
garden.
barefoot is even better. Just watch out for like pigweed that's very prickly, and the prickly dandelion types. But yeah, if you ever watch the movie Minimalism, I think it's called, there was a guy in there that was he was like a millionaire or a billionaire, and he had a big fancy house and cars and, you know, all that kind of, he used to collect cars. And he said that once he switched over to growing food instead of collecting cars, he was never happier, because with cars, they depreciate in value as soon as you get them. You're paranoid about them being scratched, right? You're paranoid about somebody bumping into you when you're driving. And it just becomes this like paranoid obsession of protecting your stuff. Plus it's all about looking good, right? And, but once you start growing food and you start giving it away, you just want to share it and you feel generous. You're not paranoid. You're like, just want to keep sharing it with everybody, and it grows in value, right? You're literally growing value as this plant grows. And so he was like a converted free millionaire that's, you know, converted to minimalism, but has an abundance of food.
I put the link down there.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, you could see his story in there. I thought that was really inspiring me to start growing more food. So thank you.
A lot of people are starting to change what their way. I mean, you were talking about the new wealth.
Yes. Oh yeah. So we have a new article. Is that up on the website now too? Did you put the articles up?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we have a new article up on the website as well. I did an article. Where did you put it under?
Blog.
Oh, blog. Okay, great. So yeah. Oh, thank you, Anne. I can see my picture of my farm there. So left of
There's
Will
a
Allen.
lot of pictures of your farm there.
Oh, there we go. So after a year of having a farm and animals, there's me and our animals and our goats. Our rabbits and our goats and our chickens. There's our first garden bed we put in, and we bought soil and we put it on top of cardboard, right? Because we wanted to get growing right away, and we didn't want to dig all that soil up. So now that garden has really good soil on the top. We put piles of leaves on it over the fall. I just went around town, and when people had bags of leaves out by the garbage cans, I just grabbed their leaves and put them on there. And that's some of our harvest. There we are on the farm. That's my first yellow squash. It's like a trophy.
I thought that was a good picture to go with the new wealth.
Thank you. Yes, that's how I felt. It's just
awesome.
Yeah, really happy. Thanks for putting that together, Anne.
Is that your family's then?
Yep, that's my family. And each one of us has an animal there. Unfortunately, we wore white, and the animals that we picked up were white or gray, so you can't really tell. But I have a rabbit. My son has a chicken, a lavender hen. My other son has a goat, baby goat. This one has a dog, and my husband has the 2 dogs.
Yeah.
So yeah, we must have 40 something animals now, over 40 animals.
Yeah.
So it sure is fun. And in the article, I talk about what I've learned. So thank you everybody for being on. I appreciate it. Really appreciate your enthusiasm. Thank you, Lisa and Mona and everybody for being on the
I
call.
look forward to hearing from you guys next week about what's growing and
Yes. And if you have a meeting, if you decide to download that flyer, again, not a big deal. Go around to your neighbors, knock on their doors, invite them to a meeting in a week or 2. And just start getting together and just meeting each other. And, you know, good icebreaker is like, what your name and what skill could you bring to the community in a case, you know, in a time of crisis or preparation or whatever, or just because.
And
then
so
get to
one
know
thing
each other that way.
One thing Zen didn't mention is on the flyers page under resources, there is a meeting outline that you can print out and give you an idea. Now, it didn't really work for me because nobody showed up all at the same time. So, but I did use the outline and ended up using it as a guide to talk to people.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's a great tool.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, everybody. Great to be with you tonight. Take care. Have a, we'll see you
Bye,
next week.
everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye.